What was on my talk this morning, like the film one? Okay, wow, very nice. Did you like it? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed this talk. I will talk about photogrammetry now, and somehow it's a bit related to what I did this morning. So, the disclaimer is like there are two kinds of photogrammetry. Right? There is the one used in film, which is like getting as many triangles as possible. Um, And there is the one used for real time, where there is this issue, like there are two things. One is the fact that you need to run it ideally on a PS4 or on a mobile phone. And number two, you will need to reuse your assets and have some tricks so that you can reuse them on any lighting conditions. You know, like you cannot take something at some point and you have to transform it so that it works again on your environment. Oh, I need batteries. So it also needs to work on the darkness right now. Okay, here. Let me start again. So I will show you like the context of why we did that. It will turn back. The context where we did the photogrammetry, we looked deeply into photogrammetry. Sorry, my technical fault. Okay, so why we looked at photogrammetry? So I don't know if you know, but we are designing a new rendering pipeline in Unity. So there is a way we were doing before, but we hired like some of the top guys in rendering in the world. So people who work on the latest Lara Croft games and on Frostbite, and they wanted to write new ways of rendering. And we didn't want to have like forward deferred, legacy deferred, new stuff, and so on. Also, we knew that the bigger the company is and the more advanced the people are, the more they want to touch at this thing, which is a render loop. You know, like the most important render loop. So we decided, what if you can script in C# the render loop? That would be great. So it's called scriptable render pipeline, and this is like this will be kind of Frostbite in Unity kind of render. You know, like that's the latest technique. But when you do this, you don't want to do this in the emptiness. We wanted to have a kind of demo, which would be a reference to see how it goes and if it's working or not. And because we want, like the reference is photorealism, to know if your engine is working well, if your lighting is physically correct, if your materials are physically correct, we decided to go for a photogrammetry demo so that we can actually compare with reference picture that we took. So what we did, it's not at all this. I'm back on my feet. Hopefully. Oh, sorry. So, okay. I'm confused. It's here. So we did this demo, and this is a demo we made for SIGGRAPH. So it's work in progress on the scriptable render pipeline. So you don't even have to look at the rendering if it's good quality or not. You know, like a lot of things are still work in progress. But this is our work of photogrammetry, and it was done by two people. So it's a forest near Paris called Fontainebleau, and we went there, took photographs, and put them back into the engine. And this talk will be about what we learned. And we actually did an ebook for free, where it's about 50 pages of detailing how we made photogrammetry from taking pictures until getting your assets in the engine. So yeah, we can. And what is interesting here is like you can change the daytime and it's still looking real. You know, like it was the nighttime. You can go, oh sorry, the nighttime. Okay. Take some time to switch. And it's very dark this screen. But the assets are still looking good, you know, even if you took them in bright daylight. They should be orange if you take them during the day. And you can relight them also. And you see the trunks are still working and so on. So, let's turn this off. So we will come back to this demo on the future. And photogrammetry also in game has been more and more used. So the most famous is Star Wars Battlefront, which has made an amazing work on photogrammetry, or the Climb VR from Crytek. And in Adam demo also, like on every Adam episode, photogrammetry is very important. And Ghost of a Tale, I don't know if you know, so it's an indie game, and they made this incredible graphics, and it's just one guy basically doing everything, and photogrammetry is quite big there. And also, on Adam Episode 2 and Adam Episode 3, it's going to be even more important. Neil Blomkamp, when he shot this, his dream was like, you go on location, like when you go to film, you go with a drone, you photograph your camera, and you will photogrammetry the entire natural set. Then you bring it back home, you put it into Unity, and then you shoot a movie inside of this. So this is an exclusive video that will be released in a month, so you see it first worldwide, about how they use photogrammetry for Adam Episode 3.
One of photogrammetry in we're going to do something which is not going to do, which is really cool, which is the idea of building a three-dimensional virtual environment in CG that is going to run on Unity as the engine.
One of the things that Neil really wanted to do for this was like, let's go find a real location, real world, and see if there's a way to use that in the game. So the only real way to do that is to digitize real life somehow.
Photogrammetry is mostly just taking a ton of pictures of static objects and then putting them into a capture program like a reality capture that's going to use here and solving those so they end up becoming 3D geometry. And then we can take that, put it in the game, and use that for the environments. The cool thing is you can do this at home with your phone camera. There's lots of tutorials out there how to do it with your phone camera. And I've gone and done that. This is actually a bit more fun. It's pretty neat.
For the objects layer, you're dealing with Earth after a human caused war that turned into a reliance on technology. The planet is kind of in a state of ruin after the wars. It's arid. There's not a lot of moisture, So immediately you start knowing roughly where to look. And for us, we have location scouts in southwestern America, so it's like Arizona, New Mexico. The one we picked ended up being sort of 3 hours from the west, and this is called Eagle Mountain, where this mine is. And it's a deactivated island. That's part of the realism. Like, would an artist think to put all of these cement cylinders here? Like, maybe not. There's weird examples of like burnt out palm trees and just like, you probably put a proper palm tree. And it's like, charred, and I don't even know what it is. I think we have some very short here and burnt out palm trees. You should get that weird randomness built into, you get it for free.
We shot roughly about 15,000 photos, and we had 2 cameras, myself and Chris, taking 7,500 photos of every kind of nook and cranny strategically around these environments. And then we had hired drone people to come down there as well. So we just have so many photos, and they're all raw photos essentially. That it combines all that information in a way that boggles my mind how the software actually does it.
We ended up in the middle of a heat wave in the States 2 weeks ago, and it was like cooking hot. And I was out there taking photographs doing 1,000 squats in 2 hours, and like they hardly moved the next day.
We're walking around on the ground taking shots every couple of feet. You want to like 50% overlap, ideally, between each photograph. So you're just basically sidestepping, shoot, sidestep, shoot, sidestep, shoot. It's amazing when you grow up and take a bunch of photos, and then all of a sudden this stuff pops up real quick. And reality capture is like, oh man, I can model that fast. You can see where all the camera nodes were. All these little things are all the positions of all the cameras as everyone walked around it. Gives you an idea of how many cameras you need for something that size.
Like it's not something that we could have done a few years ago. It just wasn't feasible yet. Now that Unity is invested in the Olympic support, suddenly that door is opened up and that bridge is laid, and now we have that access point where we can get data in.
So it's handling all that data and all that information and creating essentially the exact representation of what we saw on the day. But when we're in motion capture studio and using a virtual camera, for me, it was really trippy to like be standing with the camera and looking and seeing something on a screen, which was almost identically representative of what I actually stood on the ground on the day and looked at, like in that light.
Call me old-fashioned. It's amazing to me to be able to pick up a virtual camera as a production designer on my prep day and be walking around with There's no lens, there's no camera, but there's the set. There's a digital set, and I'm now basically walking around set dressing a digital set. It's mind-blowing to me.
I'm excited to see where it ends up. I'm genuinely curious, especially with the way that we're using photogrammetry backgrounds that I think looks super real. Bringing in cache simulation, robes, and cloth. And when all of those elements are together, and you start adding like lens flares and slightly dust modes or lens effects, that could be a pretty cool combination.
So it's pretty amazing, the quality they got. And actually, it's funny because they exactly use our workflow that we went through after this year creating the so let's go. So photogrammetry is, unfortunately, I would love to say that you take pictures and you put them in Unity and you have a model. That would be fantastic. But it's not the case. You have to do many things, and each time at each step you have to choose the right software and you have to do the right things. So basically, it's going to be 4 steps. Acquisition, processing, delighting, and then turning it into game assets. So the acquisition first. So equipment that we use, I go fast on it. It's kind of standard. You have to know that it doesn't cost, maybe with a drone and everything, it's 10,000 euros or something like that, but it's mostly the PC and the drone which is expensive, but the rest is quite cheap. Then the next thing that you have to do is the 3 W's: when, what, where, and when. So, what? No movement. So listen, because there will be a game answer. No movement, because you have to understand that photogrammetry, how it works, it tries from one picture to another to match the pixels from the other ones. So no movement, no shiny or strong reflections, because again it cannot match the pixels. Because if something is shiny and you turn around, the shininess will be at the same place. No transparency, again, and no uniform color, because you need to still match the colors. So if you have only one color, it's lost. The what? Not too simple, not too complex. Because if it's too complex, you will end up with a lot of cleaning time, which could be unnecessary. And also you have a long processing time. So you really, if you go for very complex, you really need to be a very important asset in your game. And also there is this time where if you can do something, if you can do all this, the high mesh texturing, retopology, UV baking, material, epoxy, and all of this, if you can do all this shorter than this, doing photogrammetry, you need to use traditional ways to do it. So I have a small game based on a French movie where you have to say bien, which is good, and pas bien, not good, and you say what is bien. Bien. Pas bien. Okay, we will try to. Bien. Okay. It's just like it's an example of what you can say with moderation. So, do you think it's, for photogrammetry, is it bien or pas bien? Pas bien is good and pas bien is not good. Bien. Pas bien. Pas bien. Yeah, very good. Because it's moving, you know, like if you photogrammetry a tree like this, it's going to be moving with the wind. It's not going to be good. Pas bien. Yes. Oh, that's good. I like when this sound comes. This one? Pas bien. Not good. Because it's shiny. You see, probably this thing, if you turn around, it's going to be again shiny on this part and you won't be able to match themselves. Pas bien. This one? Bien. This one? Pas bien, yeah. It's an obvious one, right? Wine would be better. This one? Yeah, because of the shiny reflections. And this one? Oh, by Gibson. So this one is good and not good somehow, because it's a lot of work. Like we made it, I think we needed 1,000 photographies to make it look alright. But at the same time, it's almost impossible to model on the right way. So on our demo, we have tons of them on the ground, so we decided to spend the time to do this. This one? Okay. Bien. It's good. It's like to do the ground. It's actually like you see also on the other movie. It's very good to do the ground with photogrammetry because you will have, on the normal maps and everything, you will have all the details of the ground without having too much image. So it's very good. This one? Pas bien. Yeah. It's pas bien because, like, if you're a good modeler, it takes you maybe 1 hour to do it. This one? I love this because the game really makes sense. Pas bien. Because it's all the same color. Look at this. This is we had I think 100 pictures, and this is a reconstruction of the point cloud. You know, like we have almost no points matching because the color is the same everywhere. And it's funny because we made a game. We did exactly the same model with that, and now it's good. And exactly the same number of pictures, right? So you see how from one place to another, it can really change stuff. This one. You know, like it's a mess. This thing is a mess. You will have to go underneath and take pictures everywhere. It will be very hard to get it. So the where, it's very quickly. Like photogrammetry takes still a lot of time, especially because you have to move there. So when you do photogrammetry, try to find a place where you can have all the things you need on the same place. Because otherwise you should have stayed at home and model stuff. So Google Map is fantastic to do this. Like when you know that you want to shoot a forest, just go on location scouting on Google Map just to find exactly the place where it's going to be interesting. Avoid public places. It's something that also happened to us. Like you take a picture and you do a photogrammetry in the street, and then you end up having people passing behind, and then the matching of data is messed up because it doesn't understand anymore. Because your brain forgets that there are people around and just focus on the subject. And beware of regulation. For example, I live in Paris, and in Paris, when you take your camera and start to be doing something very serious in some places, there are people coming and say it's not allowed to do this. So if you took the plane to Paris and you take a picture, and somebody tells you no, it's going to be a problem. Also, try to not go when it's raining or snowing because it makes things shiny and it kind of breaks everything. Try to not go when there is wind because the cloud on the top, we also don't notice it, but the cloud will actually make your images different through the shooting time, so the clear days. So it's also better to go on a season where the days are long because you have more time to shoot more objects in the day. So the capture, the goal is to have maximum sharpness, no clamping of color range. So you need really to get the most of the colors that you can get, and have a good white balance. So usually you take like an aperture which allows to minimize the depth of field. You have a fast shutter speed so that it's not blurry at all, and you have to try as much as possible to have a very low ISO so that you don't have noise on your images. So it's a balance of all the things together. And also when you take pictures, even if you do this with an iPhone, you take an application where you can see the histogram so that you can actually adjust the exposition, and you can see this on these images. You see this is the histogram, and we see here that all the colors are almost stuck to the very dark colors. So if you change your exposition, you will see that you will be able to get maximum range of your colors. So I have another game like this, just to know if you understood. So this one. Good or not good? Yeah, not good. You see the histogram is almost majority here. So like matching the pixels here is almost impossible. This one. Not good. You put an aperture where it's blurry on the background, so you have to change your aperture. This one. Can we do it also better? Yeah. That's good. Thanks. It makes my job entertaining even more. And also you can do video capture. That's the good stuff. Sometimes when you go and do photogrammetry, you will do all this movement, and sometimes you will think about something else and you miss just a piece of it. So it's good to always take quickly a video of the object, so that in case you have 1 or 2 missing images, you can go through your video file and just add them on top of it. Also for the big places, like castles, what we've seen on the Adam thing, like the drone is the only way to do, so you need to use a drone, and it has to be video. The problem is like you will have some motion blur to it, so you have to be sure to not move the drone too fast. And you have also automatic exposure control, which makes the images more or less accurate. So but it's still working. And then also when you get on site, take a picture of the place that you're shooting, like from far, so that you can remember how they were placed together. Because sometimes when you get all these assets, you kind of forget what were their relations in real life, and it can help you place them. So you get on site, take pictures. Ideally, you print them, or you on your iPad you start marking them the one that you like, so that you don't forget at the end that you needed all these pieces together. Get a reference for colors and scale. Also, sometimes you forgot if this rock was this big or this big, you know. And the thing is, which is crazy, is if you miss the scale by 10%, your eyes will notice it. So, like when you work on it, it's going to be alright. But when you will put it all together, you will feel that something has been scaled and it's not correct. So there is these color checkers which are pretty cheap, and you have the scale on it, and you have the colors that we will need later on the process. Shooting objects, we saw it very well on the video. So if you have a small object, you just go from the top, you do a layer like this, and you step, you do a layer like this. They say 50% is the minimum, but usually you try to get 90% to be sure that it works. And if you're shooting the ground, it's quite interesting. We found out that so the first thing, again, it's the scale. You have to measure the ground. If you want to have a 1 meter by 1 meter texture with 4,000, with a special resolution, you really need to make a square of 1 by 1. And then we found out that shooting this way is better. So that you actually shooting from the outside to the inside is better, because if you do like this, you may step on where you were before, and you can see it on the picture. So you can either do it like this, but we found out that with the sun and your own shadows, it's better to do this kind of. Yes. For the wall, you do it more on this kind of direction. Yeah. Oh yes. Just a little detail also. When you place the color checker, you place it on the ground when it's a ground. So when you do a wall, place it on the wall. Don't place it on the ground, because the color checker has to match the things that you're shooting. So the sun has to be exactly the same impact as what it was on the picture. Sometimes also we forget about it because it's not natural to put the color checker on the wall. So we need to think about a sparadrap or something. And then you should, when you do this kind of detailed textures, you will need to shoot from far, but also from closer, so that you can generate a detailed texture that you will be able to reapply on top of your other textures. So that's what we did on the trees. For the small objects, we recommend that you bring them with you, so that you can do the shooting on the studio, because then you can really do a fast photogrammetry with minimum pictures, and you see if it works, because you have this possibility to just add the missing pictures, so you don't have to take 1,000 photos, because you know you will never be able to go back to this location. And you have better control of light. And for the leaves, for example, we also find out that when like the opposite, you have to take them on site, because when you bring them, even 1 hour after, they already changed. Like the aspect of it is already there. And so we use these black cloths so that we have some even shadows, and we shot them on the black so that we don't have light. For the processing, again, just the processing itself is a lot of stuff. Calibration, alignment. Then you get a high mesh from this. This high mesh gets colorized. Then you simplify this high mesh with grid topology, and then you do a UV layout that will match this like game resolution mesh. Then you will bake the high resolution data onto this low resolution mesh, and then you will delight it and create a game asset. So again, unfortunately, there's not one software to do this. But what is new is like we introduce Unity in the middle of it with a tool that I will present with you. For the hardware, basically, if you want to sum this up, you need everything to the top. You need big memory, big hard drive, big CPU, big GPU, also because some bakers are GPU based, so you don't have any choice to have a big machine. So if you have your boss asking you to do photogrammetry, it's a good excuse to have a good machine. For calibration, so what you do is you need to convert your colors into, when you will be on site, the colors won't be the absolute colors. So you will need to transform these colors into perfect shadows. So we use DC-RAW, which there is like kind of two softwares, DC-RAW and then Camera Raw. And DC-RAW has more natural color conversion. We found out that Camera Raw tries to, so basically when you take raw pictures with your camera, it's like a photograph before you develop it. So, and what Camera Raw is doing is trying to develop it in a nice way. Like it tries to make it look nice. And when you do photogrammetry, you don't want it to look nice, you want it to look exact. So that's why we use DC-RAW. I will just pass this kind of traditional step. Then we use reality capture. We try different steps with reality capture. Very good. So you just put your images in, and you will press a line, and you will see this point cloud. And you will be able to verify if you have some missing pictures or not. So in reality capture, what you have is when you press a line, it may create different components. So if you put two objects, if you have photographed two objects at the same time, it could identify that there are two objects. The problem is if you have only one object and it finds two objects, it's a problem. So you can add manually some control point to say, actually this object matches this object, they are the same. But ideally we never used it, we just added some photograph on the video, it's better because it's too manual. You can, oh wow, at least it's not Unity. It's pretty good, wow. Okay, PowerPoint. Maybe Unity should do a presentation. We will see. I'm sure that Unity will crash now. A few slides in this presentation. Yeah. So. So you can set the scale directly in reality capture. So you can when you have done the photogrammetry with the scale, you can just measure the distance directly on it, and it will apply these corrections to your entire model. Then you create the model, and when you create the colors, you have basically two modes. Like one is to store the color in the point cloud. So if you have a very dense point cloud like this, you can store it. You don't need to have a kind of tessellation of it for the colors. So you can directly use color. And what is good is like you can export to a PLY file, which is very smaller than when you export to an OBJ file. Like the second way is to export as a texture, which is nice if you have some places where the point cloud is spread. When you have a very big building, sometimes you have only a point every 10 centimeters. So you want to have kind of interpolation of the colors between. But the problem is like you have to export to an OBJ file, and it's very heavy. It's could be like 70 gigs for this. So it's quite as much as you can try to use the point texture. So then after that, you have your mesh, and you can directly simplify it in reality capture. But usually it's not simplified in the sense of it's going to be a game asset. It's just like it's going to be from a point cloud into something which you can bring into Max or Maya. So you export the mesh. Like all the details of this are on the documents, that's why I go quite fast. Then you create a low resolution mesh this time. So we used one asset, it's one software which is very nice, is Instant Meshes, if you know. But it's a free asset. And it has this very nice interface, and you can draw kind of where you want to respect the line, and you press a button and it just generates a mesh. It's very nice. And then we clean it up with 3ds Max. Also the same stuff for the detailed textures. Then you have to do the UV layout, and something that you will try to do, but it's kind of traditional UV layout, is the fact that you have to minimize the number of seams. So, like the texture when it's wrapping, there will be a moment where in the texture there is a border here which connects to the border there, and you could have light which is not coherent from one to another. So try to minimize this. Maximize the available space, because on the console you don't have much space. And yeah, keep an homogeneous ratio between the size in the texture and the size of the surface. And then that's where I think it's super nice, is the fact that you take this high mesh model and you will make all the details of it into these maps, so that you can have a quite low poly running real time, but still have the feeling that it's an entire model with all the details. And for this, so there are different maps: the heat map, the tangent space normal map, the object space normal map, the ambient occlusion, the color map, the bent normal. I will tell quickly about it, but it's there is a slide of it, and the position map. We will see later how it's used. So there are basically 3 software. XNormal is free, so that makes it use a lot. But we use Node. Like if you really want to do professional photogrammetry, we really recommend Node, because it's super fast and handles everything. It generates all the textures at once. It was pretty good. Also, Substance Designer is getting better and better at making data. So I think Substance could be at some place also a good candidate. We're trying to push them to integrate this, because many people already have Substance. Another thing which is tricky, like you do this round texture, but you want to repeat it somehow on a nice way. And if it's only the color, it's pretty easy, like Photoshop, like a night tile, and you blur the borders and so on. But the problem is, like, if you didn't forget, we have like all these maps, the normal maps, the ambient occlusion map, and so on. And tiling these maps is very complicated. So basically, you have 2 choices, and that's where I will use the first word. We will use machine learning. And like Automatics is a company where they actually use machine learning to create this web service where you upload your texture with all the map, and it gives you a tiled version of it using machine learning. And I think it's like this buzzword that I half hate, half love, has some very good applications like this. Automatics, yeah. That's it. Like actually on the demo, all the textures which are repeated are done with Automatics. It was working like super good. Also, you can use Substance Painter again, because it allows to paint from a material. So if you use your texture as a material, you can paint it back and make something which looks like that. And then you create the game asset, so that's very traditional. And then we get to the last point, which is reuse the asset on any light conditions. And that's where we had an issue. It's because, I will just show this a bit after. Like the current solutions are very tricky. How do you remove all the lights, like all the small shadows and all the different lighting conditions in an object? So there is a technique where you use a polarizer and a polarized light, but it's like in practice, we wouldn't have been able to do the thing we would have, because first you eat your batteries like crazy because you need to use a flash with the polarized stuff. Then because of the reloading of the flash, you need to wait between 2 pictures, and you want to kill yourself. Then also it's not working very properly all the time either. Like you still have some little shadows coming. So there are some people who said, oh, let's take an environment map where we shot the object so that we have the environment lighting. And we kind of try to find a mathematical equation to reverse the lighting. And when we started to work on this, we found out that it's almost impossible to solve it this way. Like it's almost mathematically totally incorrect. Because your object has some shapes, it's too complicated to do this. So we were a bit stuck. And you see like this is using the polarized filter, and we still have some shadows. So that's where we decided to actually develop a tool ourselves for this, because we found out nothing else and we had no choice. So how it works, and it's like, so Cyril is a colleague of mine in Paris, and he talks a lot, and so I've been discussing with him like for hours, and honestly this is genius, really. So I tried to make it simple, but this is the way it works, just for your intellectual interest. We know that mostly when you do photogrammetry, based on the constraint, you know that most surfaces will be rough, right? So the lighting is actually just a surface color. Like the surface color is actually only the albedo multiplied by the environment lighting. So it's a very easy question. You're like, wow, it should be easy to solve. And you take all these pictures, then you get your 3D model. Cyril is a technical artist, so he likes to do these kind of animations, visuals, but it's beautiful. So on one point of this surface, you need to find the albedo and the total lighting. So which means that the albedo is actually the color that you have already. And if you find this environment map, if you find it, you're good. If you find how it is there. So what you do is like, you need to have like kind of infinite probe surfaces all around the object, right? So you won't put like tons of photographs with 360 videos. So that's where it changes. Is that when you take a flat surface and you look at one point, all the lighting is coming from one direction on the wall. So it's impossible to reconstruct the lighting from there. But because usually you want to do something complicated, you will have the light which is coming, let's say, from here on the stone, will actually affect many places on the stone, you know? So which means that you can almost be sure that the color there is, like, you look at all the stones which are pointing this direction, you make an average of this color, and you're almost sure that it's the right color, because you have so many informations telling you that this direction is this color. So what we do, we look at the texture that you took, we look at the normal map, the bend normal map, the occlusion, and we find out what the environment is looking like. So we reconstruct the environment based on your photos. And I think it's really crazy. So, like, you do this here, and you can recover one point. And the more you add points, you see the more you get the right environment map. You know? At the beginning, you have something totally blurry, because on every point you have something which is not very serious. But the more you have bumps, the more you have resolution. And then we had issues with this technique, like when you have something like this with holes, then it's not because it's pointing there that it's the same information as this one, right? So what we did, we separated it into clusters, and our algorithm is reconstructing local environment maps. You see, like, we have this. If you have multiple materials, then we have a problem, because this color here doesn't mean that it's the same environment map here, because this color is not the same material. So what we do, easy, we just create a mask and say we don't care about this, but we want to reconstruct this object. So, and the color is that. And then we had some, and then the second part of the genius is, when you have the capture surface, we remove the albedo with this technique, but we still have small parts where we still had some ambient lighting, and these are the ones to remove, right? And that's where we use the bent normal maps. So the bent normal maps tell you the width of the cone, where the light is coming from any point. So you can know exactly where the light is coming, and where you could be occluded. So that's again a kind of crazy stuff. So we look at ambient occlusion values, right? We look at colors, and we say, you know what, when you have this kind of ambient occlusion, normally it should be this kind of color. So you create a lookup table to compensate the fact that when you have this occlusion, you should remove some of the light. It's pretty smart, right? And when you push it further with bent angle, we create a 2D dot. Okay, I feel I'm speaking chess, but I'm very excited about this. And it's, yeah, so with this algorithm, you recover with a 1D dot, and with a 2D dot, we remove everything. Right? So let's do a demo because you have this tool. It's for free, and let's do a demo like this. So very easy. Let's open new project. New project. Okay. Let's take this. We will look. So you can get it here. So it's on Unity Technologies Delighting Tool. Again, it's on, if you type photogrammetry in Unity, you have all the things you want. And I get it. I can believe so, tools. I have photogrammetry asset. So this is a delighting tool that you get. You just take everything and you will just try and drop to the team. So when you're here, so you go to experimental delighting tool, and you have this delighting effect. So here they say drop a folder containing the baked textures. So what you've done previously, you will just click them. Here, they're gonna be imported. So, and now, actually, and when you drag it on, it's very nice. It does nothing. It tells you that it's missing some textures. So something that you have to know. That's why I did this talk today. Is like if you go to advanced mode, you'll see that we actually made something smart. Depending on the postfix of your textures, we will automatically find what they are. So we will change the import settings for you. So let's go to the rock. I will change it to DLAO. And you see that here, we directly change the things to 8K. Okay. And the base color is actually TLFC. I have this. How much? Okay. Oh, one thing I forgot to say, you have to be linear again. So in view settings, you go there and you go to linear because you need the maximum precision on all your operations because we're using some shaders to do the color. So now we can actually drop it here. And it's pretty magic, right? Because directly, see, this is the colored one, this slide, it's unlit, right? So it's, and you know, it's funny because we did this, and everybody who took it said, oh, it's fantastic. But Cyril was pissed off because he said, no, you know, it's not good. It's not good at all. Like, look here. Like, you see these highlights? What are these highlights are doing? Don't look at this geometry because it's not used. It's just the photogrammetry where the places it's not so visible, it reconstructs badly. But you see that the light is actually, it creates some artifacts on the lighting here. It shouldn't be like these highlights here. So what you do is you can create a mask to say, don't, like, this is messing up, all these bad informations are messing up our delighting tool. So what you do, you just, actually, so I just opened the base color. Okay. And what you will do to create two layers, one with background color, which is black, okay, and one with transparent color. So now what you will do is you will remove all the places that the delighting tool should not look at. So let's do that here. We remove this place where we had some black and and I would just delete the same in every places where it's not because it's dark. It's really because it's infrared data. So let's do this here. Okay. I will let it rest. So this, then we will hide that, and we will generate this mask. You know, this is a mask on a black background, and the red means that we consider it light. So I will export this mask. Export back here, and now if I put that mask on, you look at the highlights on the top there. Oh, yeah. It's a bit better. But here, the second problem here is these highlights around this thing here. And it's not because it's incoherent data, it's just the fact that on this rock, somebody painted on this. So which means that the color, the natural color of it is not matching the rest of the rock. So again, you go and paint the rock where the painting is so that you remove this information which is incoherent in the rest of the rock. So this. So you see there is a button here so that it automatically updates. Okay, you saw that now around this rock there is no more highlights. And you know it's not the fact that you cannot have paints on your object. It's just the fact that if you want to reconstruct the environment map, you need to reconstruct with things which are coherent with each other. So you have to remove with the mask everything which is not coherent with the global lighting. But then they will be delighted by this environment map the same way as the rest. So it's still delighting it properly. So now we are ready. We can export this to that. And I have 2 minutes. That's good. I have always right on time. And so we will just take this set. Here we have actually the simplify object. Okay. And let's display. So you see that the geometry is very simple for this object. And we will create another. And so I don't have much time, but we will see that there is some seams at some seam issues at some places. And if you drag the position map, which is baked, then we can recover the lighting from different seams. But I don't have time to show you now. But it's good enough. So we will just use this delighted texture here, and we will add the normal map. We can fix it because it's not imported as normal map now. And we will add the numbers. So now we will apply this to that. And we see like it's too shiny, but now you see that you have all the details. And what is nice is like if you turn back to Maglit, you see that it's actually not lit at all. Right? And now you go back there and it's lit by only the real-time light. Now let's turn the sun around this. You see it's like totally coherent. So we really took photogrammetry of an asset and put it back on. So that's basically my demo is ending here. The delighting tool will be available on the asset store for free. Probably on the next days there will be a video explaining exactly what I showed so that you don't forget how many steps. And all the guide is available on this page here. If you go Unity 3D Solutions Photogrammetry, there is also a talk which is similar to this one with more technical details, even more. from Sigma. So yeah, use photogrammetry and like it's like real-time rendering together with photogrammetry. We can see that you can do really crazy things with that. So thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye. Is there a session afterwards, or I can take some questions? Yeah. If you have questions, do you have a mic maybe for the questions? Okay. Questions? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So the question is why we didn't use a crumble and a rumble. We get this at the beginning, but we found out that mathematically we cannot do anything really proper from that. Like we started with this, and that's where we found out it's kind of useless. Like you get this asset which is half delighted, half the right lighting. So it's even worse, you know, sometimes. Even the not delighted asset is better than a half one, because you will have something clear on the face, but then a small shadow is really all of this. So yeah, we didn't know that. And I know that almost everybody is doing this, but we know that it doesn't work very well. Other questions? So what is the next step of photorealistic lighting in games? It's a good question, and I have a good answer. So the problem that we have now in lighting is the fact that we have physical-based rendering, right? We have physical-based modeling, but things that we don't have is physical-based lighting, which is that if you, like right now, if you take a lamp and you put it on a game, and you put the sun outside, it won't be like exactly like putting this lamp and putting the sun. Like you will have to fake it. And right now it's still like every engine is still like more like intensity to 2 and this other one to 0.6. You're moving around, right? What we are looking at with our new pipeline, actually you will see it's a bit confusing at the beginning. It's like we have physical based lighting. So our lights in the future will have like kind of physical measurement. So when you put something which is 20 watts, it's gonna be 20 watts and it will behave the same. And if you put another lamp of 30 watts next to it, it's gonna behave the same. So when you have an asset on the store which is a lamp, you can even put the light on and it will work on your environment if you're physically based. So I think that's the future of physically based lighting. And what is complicated is manage the sun, which is thousands of watts, I don't know how to say it, together with the light inside. But that's why we also have auto exposure and stuff like this, so that you can manage these conditions. But it's where it's tricky. Yeah. Yes. Sorry, what? All that I have. License? Oh, yeah. So all the direct light, sorry, I don't understand. Yeah. Where the light source is, yeah. No, not really, no. No. And also, that's not the point either, usually, because you want to put the light source wherever you want after that. So, when you do photogrammetry, if you take a picture, you can know where it was coming from somehow. So, yeah. Sorry? Or maybe we can talk after, right? I take so that we can discuss. We can discuss after the talk. So I can take another picture question. Sorry. Other question? Oh. So video versus photo capture, right? So the first thing is like it's gonna be hard to film in RAW. So you won't have this kind of very absolute quality and with high precision on your colors. I would say it's. I would say in most cases it's good enough, right? Like in Adam, most of the buildings, for example, they're done with a drone, so it works pretty well. It's really like a slider that you take between, between the two. But normally it's just like on the. If you get some artifacts with the video, you know that you need to do it. We can reduce the motion blur, but then you still have the problem of exposure. So you need to be able to lock the exposure. So that could be the second one, but it works. It really works with video. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. $100 for what? A performance way to do photogrammetry. I'm not sure. I mean, the only like expensive software here in the middle is reality capture or like these things in the middle. The actual thing transforming the two of them. But I think there are kind of licenses for. I don't exactly know the prices, but like you can like X normal for the baking is free. Instant machine is free. So you see that there are many things which are free in the meantime. It's just like really the one in the middle which is reconstructing the photos. I'm not sure if there is not one which is free or open source actually. I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Other questions? No? Okay. So thanks